The Merchants of Babylon, Part 7 of the Babylon series. We've been working through this Babylon series, and we saw that Babylon is a portrait of the false Christian church, Revelation 17 and 18. It features worldliness. It's the worship of other gods and idols. It's things that come before God, and the church allows for this, and it doesn't correct this type of behavior, and it's acceptable to the church, and the church itself is worldly. But who are the merchants? We find merchants in Babylon, that they've been made rich off of Babylon, and we're going to find that they're leaders in the church who peddle Christianity for personal gain, and we have a written study at this at therockofoffense.com. We recall from a previous study we had on the false prophet and the mark of the beast, that the false prophet caused no man to be able to buy or sell, which is the same as merchandise that we find in Revelation 18, except he has to mark the name or the number of his name, the beast's name. And we saw that the false prophet with two horns is a picture or a portrait of the false Christian church, similar to what Babylon is. The beast is the Antichrist. And one that cannot buy or sell means that Christians have a hard time functioning in this church. They're not able to function. They're not able to do normal spiritual things because they're going to be restricted because the church is altogether worldly. Please consider subscribing to this channel. We're going to go on with our study. There's a little red button in the bottom right-hand corner if you do want to subscribe. Just a quick comparison between Babylon and the false prophet. We saw that Babylon is the false Christian church. Similar to Israel being a harlot in the Old Testament, the church becomes a harlot in the New Testament. It's composed of many, many different churches and denominations. The false prophet, which has two horns, is also the false Christian church, but it features the two focal points of strength, which potentially are Catholicism and Protestantism. Okay, but let's move on. Babylon, she thinks she is spiritually rich. She says, I sit as a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. And then a little bit later in Revelation 18, that great city, which was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches have come to nothing. She thought she was rich. But we find out, similar to the church of Laodicea in Revelation 3, because you say, I am rich and increase with goods and have need of nothing, and know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. It's the same that happens to Babylon. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou may be rich. Because Laodicea was not really rich. They thought they were rich, just like Babylon doesn't think she needs anything. She's a queen. She's no widow. She doesn't need anything. She has so great riches. But she's going to be destroyed. It's the same as the church of Laodicea. So we're going to move on and look at the Babylon merchants. Okay, so the merchants were also made rich by Babylon via covetousness. We see in Revelation 18 the merchants, which were made rich by her. Okay, so the merchants were indeed rich. And then they look at Babylon, they say, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen. And that's the passage we just read on the previous slide. For in 1 hour so great riches has come to nothing. The merchants were made rich by this rich church, this rich entity, Babylon. And that's what we see as we close in on the end days. We see that the church becomes rich. That's in the Great Tribulation. This will be a powerful, rich church. And we see also in Revelation 18 that the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore. So we see the merchants are sad because they were making their living by Babylon. They were becoming enriched by Babylon, and they're sad. No more Babylon. And all that's a spiritual portrait of things that are going to be the condition at the end time of the church. And we recall from another study we had that Babylon's abundance of treasures is covetousness. In Jeremiah 51, it talks about Babylon, O that dwells upon many waters, just like Babylon in Revelation 17, 18, abundant in treasures, just like Babylon in Revelation 17, 18, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. The root issue is covetousness. It's the desire for things that you don't need. That's the root issue of they get rich, but they're searching the wrong riches. Instead, they should be searching for the riches of Jesus Christ. Okay, so also the merchants are called great men of the earth. Revelation 18:23, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, and for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And we're going to look at that sorcery in another video. But for now, just realize that the merchants were the great men of the earth. So when we look through the Bible, and you can reference the website, www.therockofoffense.com, because we lay out all the verses that talk about great men, we find that they're simply rulers, chiefs. They're people that have authority. They've made a name for themselves, that they might control other people. And it comes in a variety of different functions. Examples, Naaman, he was the captain of Syria's army, but he was a leper, but he was called the great man. Daniel was made a great man by Nebuchadnezzar, because Daniel was able to interpret Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and he was placed in authority, so he made a name. He became a great man. David was made a great man by the Lord himself. I was with thee wherever you went, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. So to be a great man is to have a great name. You're known. So we find that merchants are church leaders. They're in authority. They have power. It could be a pastor. It could be somebody on TV. It could be somebody on YouTube. It's somebody that's in leadership, but they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're doing it for covetousness. So let's move on and look more at this. Okay, so false teaching, and we find a very key passage in 2 Peter chapter 2. And let's read it. But there were false prophets also among the people of Israel, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who secretly shall bring in damnable heresies, and many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. The way of truth is Christ, Jesus Christ. It's the Bible. That's the way of truth. But it'll be evil spoken of. People won't want to open the Bible. The Bible will be perverted. And here's the key point, and through covetousness shall they with feigned or plastic words make merchandise of you. There it is, that word merchandise. That word merchandise isn't used that much in the Bible, but there it is. It's false teaching, false people in the church. They're with plastic words. They're twisting the gospel. But the motive is covetousness, which literally means greediness. And we see in Revelation 18:3, the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. These merchants are the ones that are in the church for gain. There's leaders in the church that do it out of their heart because they're true Christians. That's wonderful. But there's many others that are doing it for money. It's for filthy gain. They're false teachers and leaders in the church. They're using Christianity to benefit themselves and benefit their own situation. Okay, so let's look at the word merchandise. And it shows up in 2 Peter 2, and it shows up in Revelation 18:3. And the Greek word is emporos, which it sounds familiar, but the English word became emporium. You go to an emporium, a place of buying and selling. It's almost like a flea market. It's in the merchandise of religion. So religion is a spiritual emporium. A lot of people are out there trying to peddle their information, what they believe is truth. And the only truth, and we recall Pilate asking Christ, what is truth? And truth is Jesus Christ. He is the true way. And truth is the Bible. Thy word is truth, John 17:17. So let's keep that in mind. This word merchants literally means to be in the emporium, buying and selling. Okay, so buying and selling in the Bible, it's a large study actually. To buy, sell, redeem, ransom, marketplace, gain and profit, loss. We go through that on the website, therockofoffense.com. If you look at the Babylon's merchants and merchandise, that area of the website, we have a larger study on that you can just go through and look at all those. Some of them are beautiful spiritual meanings of salvation and obtaining spiritual truth, wisdom, knowledge, a commitment to disciples to sell all. But it also includes false teaching in the church where people are merchandised for personal gain. They're fooled in the church. They're told wrong things. And these people want to get personal gain, whether these are people on TV, in the pulpit, writing books, doing internet, social media, videos, whatever. So we see as an example false buying and selling in the temple. And Jesus, we recall, drove out of the temple. He found in the temple those who were selling oxen, sheep, and doves, and the changers of money. And he made a scourge of small cords, and he drove them out of the temple. And the sheep and the oxen were poured out, and the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. And he said unto them, as Saul does, take these things hence. Make not my father's house a house of merchandise. There the word is again. It's a picture of those that creep into the house of God, and they're doing it for their own personal gain. These things back in John 2 were used because people wanted to make sacrifices, but it's the same thing in the church today. There's people who use the church for business. They use it for personal gain. They want to be an authority. They want to make money. It's religion for hire. So, and when Christ drives them out, that'll be Judgment Day. We also find verses in the Bible that talk about the desire for filthy lucre. And that's an old English term which literally means shameful gain. So we find that church leaders often seek shameful gain. And in 1 Peter 5 and in Titus 1, this is about leaders in the church. And it says, feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, and not for filthy lucre, not for shameful gain, but of a ready mind. And that's exactly what happens in Babylon. These leaders in the church are doing it for shameful gain. They're benefiting from it. Titus 1, a bishop, which is a leader, an overseer in the church, the same as an elder or a pastor. They're just three aspects of the same person. For a bishop must be blameless as a steward of God. He taking care of the house of God, not given to filthy lucre. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not for filthy lucre's sake. There's people out there teaching because in one way they either get money for it, or they get famous, or they get some type of power. There's something in it for them. They're not doing it out of a heart for Christ. And woe unto me if I don't preach the gospel aspect. They're doing it for almost a business. So, and there's many other Bible passages on examples of religion for gain. Just going to look at Balaam, because he was a prophet for hire. And again, we see that used in Jude and also in 2 Peter 2 as an example of those who creep into the church. And they're false teachers in the church, which have forsaken the right way and have gone astray, following the way of Balaam, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. And then Jude, which is a parallel passage, for woe unto them if they have ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward. And what did Balaam do? Balaam ultimately was hired by Balak to curse Israel. And he couldn't do it. The Lord didn't allow him to do it. But he found another way to do it. And he did it by committing a trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. And when we look at Numbers 25, we find that he got the people to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifice of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. There it is. Same thing that Babylon's doing. It's worldliness. It's the worship of other gods and idols. And Israel at the time, which was the church of God, joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. That's exactly what's going on in Babylon. You have people in there for hire, and they tempt them to be like the world. Oh, it's okay to just live like the world. You just have to make a decision for Christ. That's all you need to do. Just try maybe to read your Bible here and there, but make sure you come to church on Sunday. It's the same situation as Balaam. Okay, so merchandising, we find other scriptures in the Old Testament that talk about apostate Judah, called a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand. He loves to oppress. Also, Satan, which was the king of Tyre, portrayed Satan in Ezekiel 28, by the multitude of thy merchandise. They have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. And Israel's shepherds, the leaders in Israel, Isaiah 56, his watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yea, they are greedy dogs, which can never have enough. So these merchants of Babylon, think about the merchants of Babylon, can never have enough. More and more. Let's make a bigger church. Let's get more people. Let's make a bigger parking lot, a bigger building, sell more books, sell more videos, sell more DVDs, tapes, etc. And they are shepherds that cannot understand. A shepherd's supposed to shepherd the flock of God. Just remember, we looked at 1 Peter chapter 5. Not for filthy lucre. But they all look to their own way, everyone for his gain. All these false shepherds were doing it for their own gain. From his quarter, Isaiah 56:10 and 11. And we see Revelation 18 discusses Babylon's merchandise. And we see a list of 29 items, gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, etc., etc. And it's easy or tempting to take all this literally, but it's not. They're all symbols. And when we analyze those symbols in the Bible, and we've done that, and it's on our website, therockofoffense.com, under the merchants area, Babylon and then merchants. And we see all these things are types of things that are Christian, including Christians themselves, precious stones in the building. And we see horses, the battle, the Christian battle, and the oil, the flour represents the Holy Spirit, the Bible, all type of symbolic meanings. And that's what Babylon's merchandise said. So we're not going to go through that on this video in detail. I'd refer you to the website. And let's just look at a final summary. Okay, so who are Babylon's merchants? Babylon's merchants are those in leadership, in authority. It could be a pastor, it could be a ministry leader, it could be somebody in the church. Usually they're getting some benefit. They're paid by the church, or they're making money. And there's many people with the right heart that are true Christians that are trying to do the right thing. But there's many, many others. Satan's kingdom, Satan's ministers that are all over the place. And those who are in Christianity peddling false teaching, and they're doing it for shameful gain. They're doing it for greed and covetousness. So we're going to move on to one final video in the book of Revelation on Babylon. And we've got to cover the sorcery of Babylon. You're not going to want to miss that. And then after that, we're going to move on into the Old Testament. Please consider subscribing to this channel, the Rock of Offense. And I thank you very much for watching this video.